And so, of course, now we've got some time. We have some time for Q&A. All right, so let's do some Q&A. Ricardo, I'm going to give you I'll give you control of that side of the room. I'll take this one. Anybody with questions? All right, there in the middle back. You sir in the front.
Do you think there was any alien influence in this?
Any alien influence? Well, you use Occam's razor. What's the simplest explanation? It's either these people are really, really smart, we got to give people credit for that, or that somehow a highly advanced civilization traveled trillions of miles at probably faster than the speed of light to land in the middle of a jungle somewhere in the Yucatan to talk to a bunch of different people and say, you know what? We can give you a calendar that's 45 minutes off over 5,000 years. And I got to tell you, the astronomer should have said, we want 30 or nothing. We want a little bit more precision. You're coming across the universe. There's actually a sarcophagus, the top of a coffin, in a city called Palenque. It's in northern Mexico. That purports to show an astronaut blasting off into space. And it's one of the great ancient astronaut parts of the theory that somehow the Mayans were actually aliens themselves, and that's why they disappeared. But yeah, it's not going to happen. There's no aliens, unfortunately. Yeah.
Didn't the Antikythera device predict eclipses before the Mesoamerican?
We found out that it did. It's highly unlikely that the people that built it actually used it for that. The reason being is that after a certain amount of time, especially what's known as the Soros cycle, you can actually get certain things to predict lunar and solar eclipses because they are repeatable. The Mayans were the first to go out and try to do this directly. The device was a little bit more hit and miss. But, of course, this is happening in the middle of a jungle in the Western Hemisphere when we're supposed to be in the middle of the Bronze Age, not over in Europe when things are supposed to be advanced and amazing. So, yeah, kind of given their location and sort of the reputation they had before the 20th century, we'll give the Mayans everything they've got at this point. Really, really impressive. All right, so we'll go there and then over there to you, sir. Yes?
I feel like I remember something with precession with the Mayan calendar. Is that right?
Well, there is precession in all things. Because the Earth is tilted, we actually wobble around like a top. And so right now we point at the North Star Polaris. 5,000 years ago we pointed at a very different North Star. It's called Thubain. The reason we know that is because the pyramids in Egypt are not aligned to our current North Star. They're aligned to Thubain 5,000 years ago. It allows us to figure out, within about 100 years, how long ago the pyramids were made. The precession is this. What we see in the summer sky is actually what they saw in the winter sky, and what we see in the winter sky today is what they saw in the summer sky. That being said, it doesn't really change too much of the story. It just changes the time of the year. Although for them, the summertime it's 93 degrees outside. In the wintertime it's a balmy 87. And so for them there really wasn't much of a difference. But that precession has only changed the time of the year that we see these different stars, not necessarily the stars themselves. Good question. Yes?
So I may have switched things up, but I think I remember that they had a base 20 number system.
Yes, they did. And there's a good reason for that.
Did that affect how they, can you describe how they worked with geometry? Like, did they have 360 degrees, or how did they measure these things?
Well, their actual calendar, what we call the Hob calendar, was 360 days. So we know that 360 was an important number to them. They had 5 days at the end of the year that were kind of cursed days. Nobody went out and you didn't shower in those last 5 days of the year. Which basically sounds like final weeks if you're at UCF. That being said, the base 20 system of the Mayans is very, very simple for us to understand. Because if you have no shoes and you want to count, you have 10 on your hands and 10 on your feet. That's base 20. For some reason, Europe and by extension, the Arabs, when we started to put together the Arabic numeral system, decided that base 10 was a little easier. In fact, base 20 is much, much easier when you're trying to do basic addition and subtraction. And so the reason we think that much of the mathematics in Mayan culture was so advanced is because they had a system that the Western Hemisphere was not used to using. And so in base 10, all of this seems very, very difficult. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. In base 20, you've got 1 through 20 plus an additional 0. So this is one of the first civilizations in the world to think of the idea of nothing being something. And put all that together, well, you can do things in Mayan math that Newton had to invent calculus for. So, Newton decided he ran out of math and needed new ones. And so now all of you have to take calculus because of him. He got bored one day and decided to create entirely new mathematics. The Mayans sort of did that about 600 years before he did. Any other questions? Yes?
I was wondering, I might have said this already, but is it Earth-centric or Sun-centric for their view of the universe?
For the most part, it is Earth-centric, but to them, the movement of Venus and the moon, far more important than the movement of the sun. So we don't see a lot of references to geocentrism. They also didn't view the Earth as the center of the universe, like symbolically. The Greeks were so obsessed with the Earth being the middle of the universe, and Ptolemy in ancient Egypt so obsessed with us being perfect in the universe that the cult of geocentrism became far more popular in the West, or in Europe. Over with the Mayans, it was sort of a non-issue for them. The sun rose, the sun set, it was hot, the corn grows, we sacrifice a few people, we go to war, and we call it a day, and we move on. So the Mayans were simple people. Calculus, sacrifice, and the occasional ball game, which worked out really well for them for about 800 years. Any other questions? Yes, you sir, and then in the back.
Did any of the Mayan writings influence anybody over in Europe?
Not that we're terribly aware of. Most of the writings that we discovered have only been in the past 150 or 200 years. There's always been talk that the Europeans came over early. There's a theory with not tons of backing to it, that the Phoenicians actually came to South America and Central America about 4,000 years ago. Very, very little proof to that. But it should be noted, in terms of influence, that Joseph Smith, the founder of Mormonism, did believe that Jesus went to be with the Mayans during his 18 years between when he's 12 and he's in the temple and he's supposed to disappear until he comes back, that in those 18 years that he is not in any of the scriptural records, that he went to go live with the Mayans in the Yucatan. Now, that's probably not true. Joseph Smith had a couple of not so great ideas. But the Mayans didn't exist 2,000 years ago, as far as we know. So there is that connection, but not much else. We've just been really impressed by how well they were able to do this through a vacuum.
That was great, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. And then we'll do, how much time we got? 1, 2? Oh, cool.
More questions.
So what are some of the concepts or usefulness that astronomy gets out of having this long record from Mayans and other civilizations?
It makes it incredibly easy to date things. From an archaeological perspective, we can date the reigns of kings and queens, the falling and rising of empires in Mayan history down to the day. And in fact, because of the accuracy of the long count calendar, we're able to determine that the last true creation in Mayan history was August 13th, 3114 BCE at 4 p.m. in the afternoon. That's how precise the long count calendar is. And that's the most famous one. We have Mayan calendars that actually stretch for more than 5 million years. And they're increasingly inaccurate as you get out that far. But the fact is that you can go at 5 million years in Mayan calendars and only be off by about 10 or 15 years, which is amazing. Some of you would count to 1 million and probably just get caught about 2,000, then forget and have to start over, and they can get up to 5 million with a calendar where two big wheels touch each other. They move around and this system somehow works over the course of thousands and thousands of years. It's pretty amazing.
Sorry.
No worries.
So
He runs the place.
Well, I don't run the place. But I want to, first of all, quick round of applause for Michael for a great presentation. I want to say that Michael will continue to drink and hang out, so if you have more questions between all the breaks, feel free to harass him, and he loves to talk about this kind of stuff. He does shows at the planetarium every week. Yep. So if you're ever available, go to Seminole State and check out the planetarium shows. And we have something for Michael. Peter's going to give them to him right now.
Yeah, give me the microphone.
Oh, here you go. Sorry, yeah, he wants to talk.
Yeah, so we got this bag for the speakers, and you're probably wondering, what's in the bag, right? So this is a Space Coast, Florida Space Coast bag.
Fantastic.
And we got some space ice cream in here for you. And there'll be more of that at the jam if you're coming to the jam. And Captain Forever Remix. This was made by the Indie Box, which is a local, well, the game wasn't, but the box was put together by Indie Box, which is a local company that makes physical boxes for games. There's also an awesome lapel pin modeled here by me. Well, you're gonna look like me now. And some stickers and other goodies in here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.